poetry slash storytelling slash song slash, everything you can imagine. So I think y'all should give yourselves a round of applause for showing up tonight. Yeah. So I appreciate it. So just to give a little bit of background on what this whole event is about, we wanted to really focus on the fact that on this campus there's not much space to express yourselves outside of the classroom or outside of the course material. So, how often is it that you have a group of individuals that you're studying with, but you don't know anything about their true realities? We're all navigating this space, but we don't really know what we're going through. So I thank all of you guys for coming out tonight because this is very important. This is a very important space for us, and this is also an indicator of what's to come. There's a sign-up sheet going around somewhere. We ask that all of you sign up because we have a couple questions that we would like to ask you via email that we would like to address later on because we would like to have this be a reoccurring event. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Just to add on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we don't want this to be like a one-time event. We see this as like the initiation of a movement of making our voices matter on campus. Having a space where we can speak our truth, where our identities and our realities that we live every day is not invalidated on some abstract intellectualization, but we're not going to go down there right now. But this is also to build a space of love, because I feel like a lot of the times in grad school we get so caught up in this like competition game BS, which is just like all about making money, this, that, and the fourth, and in that process we forget who we are and who we love, including loving each other and loving ourselves. So that's what this whole event is for. But also to remind ourselves how this can be used as a pedagogical tool in the spaces that we occupy, whether it's with clients or whether it's with students. So it's not just for us, it's also for the people that we're trying to serve. So that's why we're doing this. So.
Definitely. So just some housekeeping rules. The back, I don't know if there's any food left or whatever it is, but when the performers are up here or when somebody's speaking, we ask that you guys don't move around too much. The chairs are very loud in here, in case you haven't noticed. So we ask that for the respect of the speaker up here, that you guys don't move around too much, unless it's like in between performances. Snaps and like do that. Like, you know what I mean? Don't feel like you gotta be quiet when you hear something that hits you. You know what I mean? When you get caught by that, you know what I mean? So feel free to do that. I wanted to give a shout out to everybody that's been a part of organizing this event. The Institute for Urban and Minority Education has been doing, everything for us. The Black Student Network has been helping us out with this. Student Center's been like on top of their game. They've been helping out with everything. The Curators of Hip Hop, our DJ over here, Jermaine is doing the Curators of Hip Hop. He'll speak about that a little bit later, but shouts out to him. And also our opening remarks.
Oh, okay, so we are going to give a warm welcome to Dr. Chris Pendon, who's a professor here at TC, who does urban science and has really expanded the idea of culturally relevant pedagogy and adding that whole reality pedagogy and flipping that shit upside down, excuse my language. I really wanted to bring Chris here because he was one of the few professors who encouraged me to be my authentic self, to sound like myself, to dress like myself, to say what I want to say. And in doing that, I am myself a disruption in these white hegemonic spaces where our voices usually don't matter. So to the voices that matter, oh, you can plug in your book though. No, so we're gonna give it up for Dr. Chris Pendon.
So how's everybody doing? So I'm psyched to be able to, I'm just uber excited to have this many students here and like to feel the energy in the room, and it seems really infectious, and I really hope that this is something that happens not just once. In many ways I'm representing UME and representing the faculty and being in this space, but most importantly I thought I'd just give like 2 minutes talk and opener, and maybe I'll spit a little something after my 2 minutes, and just to say why this is important. So I'm coming this afternoon from a school in the Bronx, working with some young people who have been absolutely stripped of any avenue to have voice in that space. And I'm not just talking about being stripped of it in a classroom, but really institutionally, right? So they're in a school where there's no art program, there's no dance program, there's no sort of creative space in that school. And my project that I brought to the school allows those young people to be able to write rhymes around their content. And when they start writing rhymes about their content for the first time, you see such a cathartic release from those young people that is mind-boggling. It's almost like all the pent-up frustrations from years of schooling that made the opportunity to be themselves not be there. It just gets released in a sort of really abrupt and powerful way. And when I think about what happens when we give young people those opportunities, I think about the educators who are supposed to be the ones to create the spaces for them to be able to have those opportunities. And when I think about that, I think about the process of graduate education and schooling and how, in many ways, it actually replicates the model that oppresses the young people. So like the fact that the young people don't have a space to be able to vent their frustrations and to dance and to move and to be expressive, the nature of teaching and learning in spaces that are based on a larger Eurocentric tradition makes that absent from what you do. And you cannot model emancipation for somebody if you yourself are mentally incarcerated. And so the beauty of being in a space like this is that it gives you what Foucault would call a fracture, an opportunity to really just break out of that shell of the space that forces you to be something other than yourself. My belief system has always been very simple, and it's that music and poetry is it's almost like it's the trigger for the birth of the theories of emancipation. And when I say the birth of the theory, I mean like the theories of emancipation are the kind of conversations we have every day. Conversations about social justice, about equity, about cultural relevance. But all those things are still in labor. And music and poetry is what gives it life. So the emancipations of theory gives birth to actual freedom. And so realize that what you're doing today is creating an opportunity for us as an institution to give birth to a new type of reality and new types of norms. And so give yourself a round of applause just for being here. And then with that being said, I'll split my opening joint and then I'll leave it to the students to do what they do. And this piece was obviously inspired by a bunch of recent events that struck me at my soul as an educator, with sort of how young people get to interact with the criminal justice system and with police. So it starts like this. It goes on. So concealed in my being is this in-depth feeling, like, why aren't they living and they kill us no time given? Make sense of the loss of innocence's presence, whence I tried to comprehend at what point they sinned, so much that black, their life had to be taken. So I awaken midnight, no light, my body shaking, sweating, tears dropping on pillowcases. I set up my window faces, the same jakes that killed my aces. Erase life for no basis in a supposed ghetto oasis. Destroying car chases and target specific races. Then ID bracelets are placed next. They watch all your engagements. Now they're telling you who to play inside your tape decks. Take check or face rep is coming for you. And their messages all over. They be the boys in blue. Now these two that slow down. This ain't apocalypse, but a pocket full of clips and grenades around their hips is the skit. And it's closer, their grips is on a holster. You hold a meeting and citizens is retreating. Receding, speaking of seeking for a beacon. But this is what you're needing, information is leaking. Separating in PO zones, you're sweating because the ozone's depleting. There's more sweating than Armageddon. They reckon we be setting in our section, not remembering the lesson of infesting our leaders with leaders of drugs and alcohol. Eyes bugged, left them in withdrawal. Hooked them on oral amphetamines and deemed them morally unfit. Dog, I'm pissed, how about you? And their messages all over. I see them boys in blue. Thank you.